Down here at the bottom of the workspace, there are a couple other tools I want to point out. One is the tag selector, which is all of this over here at the left, and the other is the status bar, and this whole thing is called the status bar. So some simple options you may be familiar with: a select tool, which is how you want to use the program in general, but there is a zoom tool if you want to expand or reduce the view of the design so you can see more on the screen at once. And there is a move tool, a hand tool that lets you move things around. Again, very similar to controls you might be used to using in Photoshop. Double click on that zoom and you guessed it, you go back to 100%. Go back to the select tool when you're ready to be working on other parts of the program. This option here has to do with the available space you could expect in a browser based on the resolution of your monitor. And you can edit these sizes. So you can choose to target a particular size if you know that's the size you want to target. Many people get confused by what size they should target in their web designs. Should I design for an 800 by 600 screen? For 1024 by 768? Does it not matter at all? Well, the simple answer is it really depends on your audience, but that gets a little complicated on the web. If you're not sure and you want to play it safe, some people still design for an 800 by 600 resolution monitor. That's based on the idea that many people are still using relatively small monitors and don't have very much real estate in the browser window. In that case, you probably don't want to design any wider than Dreamweaver recommends 760. I know a lot of people go to 778 or 780 in width, and you'll still fit pretty well within most browsers on an 800 by 600 resolution screen. These days, many people have graduated to the 1024 by 768 option, assuming that more and more people have gotten bigger screens. Again, think about your audience. If you have an audience of graphic designers or executives, you probably can design for 1024 by 768 without worrying much at all. If you're designing for grade schools or for people who might have a more restricted options, then you may want to limit that size. No matter what you choose, you can change that here in the Preferences dialog under the Status Bar category. You can also change the connection speed that's targeted here. If you notice over here on the right, this is telling me that the weight of this page, all of the images and everything else on this page, add up to 53K, and that will take 8 seconds to download. Well, that 8-second estimated download time is based on whatever connection speed setting you have in Preferences. So if you change this to, say, 128, because you assume people might have faster connections, then you can assume that that will shrink. And now you see it's a 4-second estimated download time if somebody has a 128 speed connection. Over here on the left, you have the tag selector. This is incredibly helpful when you're trying to do things in the workspace and you want to select different elements. What you're basically seeing here are all of the tags that are around whatever is selected. So my cursor is in this Gallery 1 link in the navigation bar. And if you remember, when I go back to split screen, this is formatted with a link tag. It's also formatted with the ULLI tag. That's for an unordered list. And as you'll see a little later, I've changed the way that list appears using CSS. But the tag around that is actually an LI tag with a UL tag. And then that's contained within this div tag with an ID navbar. Now, again, if this is all still new to you, that may be a little confusing. But what I want you to see is that the tag selector down here at the bottom is going to display everything around what I've selected. So when my cursor is in the word gallery, it's going to show me that there's an anchor tag surrounded by an LI tag, that's a list item tag, surrounded by the UL, the unordered list tag, surrounded by a div tag that says navbar, and that there are 2 other div tags around that, and then ultimately we get to the body tag. And the body tag should surround everything in the display area of your page. Similarly here, you'll see this as an image tag inside a paragraph tag. Why is this helpful? Well, if you're trying to select something, like for example here, we have a header tag, that H1 tag, that heading tag, isn't always selected when you just click and drag in the HTML code. In fact, it's quite easy to use copy and paste and not get the formatting tag. Similarly, you can see if you have redundant tags. So in this particular case, I have a strong tag, which makes this bold, inside an H1 tag, which also makes it bold. And that's another very handy thing in the tag selector. You can right-click on any tag and choose Remove Tag to get rid of it. And notice how Dreamweaver took both the beginning and the ending tag off that text when I did that. All very handy resources down here in the tag selector. You can also use this for applying and removing CSS styles. So here you see this div tag has an ID style and it has a class style attached to it. You could remove those or reset those by right-clicking on it in the tag selector and using this menu bar to move around. Again, we'll see more of that in the CSS chapter.